What if every prayer you've ever spoken, every desperate plea you've made to the universe, has actually been keeping you from the very thing you're seeking? Think about it for a moment. How many times have you asked for healing, begged for abundance, pleaded for peace, or requested divine intervention in your life? And what if I told you that the act of asking itself is what's been blocking your transformation all along? This might sound radical, even contradictory to everything you've learned about spirituality and faith. But stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover will completely revolutionize not just how you pray, but how you experience every single moment of your existence. For centuries, we've been conditioned to believe that spiritual power comes from somewhere outside ourselves, that we must petition, bargain, and prove ourselves worthy to receive divine grace. We've been taught to see ourselves as separate from the source, as incomplete beings, constantly reaching for something we don't possess. But what if this entire framework has been built on a fundamental misunderstanding? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You've prayed earnestly for something. Maybe it was healing from an illness, relief from financial pressure, or resolution to a painful relationship. You asked with all your heart, perhaps even with tears streaming down your face. And yet, despite the intensity of your asking, nothing seemed to change. Or maybe things did shift, but only temporarily, leaving you right back where you started, asking once again. The mystical teacher Joel Goldsmith spent decades unraveling this spiritual mystery, and what he discovered will shake the very foundation of how you understand divine power. He found that Jesus of Nazareth didn't perform those extraordinary miracles by asking God for special favors or by possessing some supernatural ability that was his alone. Instead, Jesus embodied something far more profound, a complete recognition of his oneness with infinite source. What you're about to discover might surprise you. When Jesus said, "I can of mine own self do nothing," he wasn't being humble or modest. He was revealing the greatest secret of spiritual transformation. The power doesn't come from asking, it comes from embodying. He didn't heal people by requesting divine intervention. He recognized the wholeness that was already present, the Christ consciousness that existed within every person who came to him seeking help. And here's where everything changes. This same consciousness, this same divine presence, exists within you right now. Not as something you need to earn, not as something you must ask for, but as your fundamental spiritual identity. The moment you shift from asking to embodying, from seeking to recognizing, from requesting to being, you step into a realm of transformation that defies everything conventional religion has taught you. Think about how exhausting it's been, always asking, always seeking, always feeling like you're on the outside looking in, hoping that today will be the day your prayers finally get answered. What if there's a completely different way? Most people look at the stories of Jesus walking on water, healing the blind, or multiplying loaves and fishes, and they think these were displays of superhuman power, something only a divine being could accomplish. But that interpretation actually misses the entire point of what Jesus was demonstrating. The truth behind the scenes is far more revolutionary, and honestly, far more accessible to you and me than we've ever been led to believe. Jesus of Nazareth didn't perform those extraordinary acts because he possessed abilities that were uniquely his. He accomplished them because he made a fundamental shift in his identity. He stopped seeing himself as a limited human being who needed to ask for divine power, and instead became completely transparent to the Christ consciousness that was already flowing through him. His human personality, with all its limitations and fears, dissolved into pure spiritual being. This wasn't a transformation that happened to him from the outside. It was a recognition that awakened from within. When he stood before impossible situations, he wasn't frantically praying for God to intervene. He was embodying the truth that he and the Father were one. There was no separation, no distance to bridge, no permission to seek. The power wasn't being granted to him. It was expressing through him because he had stopped identifying with limitation. This is the hidden truth that changes everything about how we approach our own spiritual journey. If this content resonates with you, subscribe to this channel. We explore these transformative truths in practical, accessible ways that create real shifts in your daily life. Now here's where this gets deeply personal and profoundly impactful for your life today. That same Christ presence, that same infinite consciousness that expressed itself through Jesus, exists within you right now, not as a goal to reach someday, not as a reward for years of meditation or religious devotion, not as something you earn through good behavior or spiritual merit. It's your fundamental spiritual identity at this very moment. The struggle you've been experiencing, the feeling that you're somehow spiritually incomplete or inadequate, doesn't come from lacking this divine presence. It comes from the mindset that keeps you in a perpetual state of asking for what you already possess. Every time you pray as if you're separated from the source, every time you beg for transformation as if it's something external to you, you're actually reinforcing the very illusion that's blocking your experience of wholeness. This revelation completely shifts the entire paradigm. You're not a broken human trying to become spiritual. You're not someone who needs to accumulate enough prayers or practices to finally deserve divine grace. You are, right now in this moment, spiritual consciousness expressing itself through human form. The journey isn't about becoming what you're not. It's about recognizing what you've always been. When this truth penetrates your awareness, when you make that shift from asking to embodying, transformation becomes inevitable. Not because you're doing something new, but because you're finally aligning with the reality that's been present all along. The decisions you make from this place of embodiment are fundamentally different from the desperate choices made from a mindset of lack. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring exactly what happens in your daily life when you stop operating from petition and start living from recognition. Because this isn't just spiritual philosophy, it creates tangible shifts in your relationships, your health, your abundance, and every challenge you face. If this understanding is resonating with something deep inside you, write in the comments, "I am ready to embody." Think about how much energy you've spent throughout your life working towards spiritual goals. How many workshops have you attended? How many books have you read? How many techniques have you practiced, all with the underlying belief that if you just do enough, try hard enough, pray long enough, you'll finally achieve that state of divine connection? But what if that entire approach has been built on a fundamental misunderstanding? The power that moved through Jesus to heal the blind, to calm storms, to even conquer death itself. This isn't some distant prize you're working your way toward. It's not a spiritual achievement reserved for saints and mystics who've dedicated their entire lives to religious devotion. It's your birthright as a spiritual being. The moment you were conceived, not in your mother's womb, but in the mind of infinite consciousness, this divine nature became the core of who you are. The hidden truth behind all spiritual struggle is this: you've been asking for what you already possess. Every prayer for healing is made from the assumption that you're broken and need fixing. Every request for abundance comes from a mindset of lack. Every plea for peace reinforces the belief that you're separate from divine wholeness. And yet, When you stop asking and start embodying your true nature, these qualities don't have to be created or earned. They emerge naturally, like water flowing from a spring that's always been there beneath the surface. This isn't some abstract spiritual theory that sounds beautiful, but has no practical impact on your daily reality. This is a revelation about your true identity that transforms how you experience every single moment. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you can either begin your day as someone who needs to ask for strength, guidance, and provision, or you can step into your day as the very presence of divine intelligence expressing itself through your unique human experience. The journey from one to the other isn't about acquiring new spiritual abilities. It's about making a fundamental identity shift. You're not a broken human being reaching up to a distant deity, hoping your prayers might be heard. You're a perfect spiritual expression that has temporarily forgotten its divine nature. And the transformation happens not through more asking, not through more striving, but through recognition. When you find yourself facing a difficult situation, maybe it's a health challenge, a relationship conflict, a financial pressure, notice what happens in your mind. The automatic response is usually some version of, "Why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? Please God, help me." That entire mental pattern comes from identifying as a limited human victim of circumstances beyond your control. But when you embody the recognition of who you truly are, the entire dynamic shifts. Challenges are no longer threats or punishments. They become opportunities for Christ consciousness to demonstrate itself through you. The difficult conversation becomes a chance for divine wisdom to speak through your words. The physical symptom becomes an invitation for wholeness to reveal itself. The financial shortage becomes space for infinite abundance to express in unexpected ways. If this message touched something real in you, a like helps these teachings reach others who are searching for this exact understanding. Your engagement creates ripples beyond what we can imagine. This creates a profound mindset shift in how you navigate your entire existence. Behind the scenes of every challenging situation is an opportunity for awakening. The revelations that emerge from this new perspective don't just change your circumstances, they transform your relationship to everything that happens in your life. If you've experienced that shift from victim to vessel, even for a moment, write in the comments, "I choose embodiment." Let me ask you something personal. How do you pray? If you're honest with yourself, most of your prayers probably sound like requests being sent to some cosmic customer service department. Please help me with this problem. Please heal this condition. Please bring me the right opportunity. Please change this situation. We've been conditioned to treat prayer like we're leaving voicemails for a deity who might or might not get back to us, depending on how busy the divine schedule is that day. But what if prayer was never meant to be about asking at all? What if the entire framework of petition, of requesting divine intervention, completely misses the point of what authentic spiritual connection actually is? When you begin to embody Christ consciousness rather than beg for it, prayer undergoes a radical metamorphosis. It transforms from a desperate attempt to get God's attention into a profound moment of recognition. You're not trying to convince some external force to notice your suffering and decide you're worthy of help. You're awakening to the divine presence that has literally never been absent from your experience for even a single moment. The shift is subtle, but its impact is absolutely revolutionary. Instead of "Please God, heal me," the prayer becomes a quiet recognition. The wholeness I'm seeking is already present. Instead of "Please bring me abundance," it becomes "I embody the infinite source from which all provision flows." This isn't just playing with words or using more spiritual-sounding language. It's a complete transformation in how you relate to the divine. Behind the scenes of this shift is a journey from separation to union, from beggar to heir, from victim to vessel. The revelations that emerge when you stop asking and start recognizing will fundamentally alter every aspect of your daily experience. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. For most people, the first thoughts that flood in are tinged with anxiety. What problems am I facing today? How am I going to handle that difficult conversation? What if my symptoms get worse? How will I pay that bill? The mind immediately goes into strategy mode, trying to figure out how to navigate potential disasters, and often the automatic response is to send up desperate little prayers asking for help with everything that might go wrong. But when you begin your day from a place of embodiment rather than petition, everything shifts. Before you even get out of bed, before you check your phone or start mentally listing your worries, you take a moment to recognize your true spiritual identity. Not as an affirmation you're trying to convince yourself of, but as a simple acknowledgement of what has always been true. In that recognition, problems that seemed insurmountable yesterday reveal themselves as opportunities for divine intelligence to express through you. This isn't positive thinking or some psychological technique where you're trying to reprogram your mind with better thoughts. It's a fundamental realignment with reality itself. You're not asking for solutions anymore because you're embodying the infinite intelligence that already knows the answer. You're not requesting guidance because you're recognizing yourself as the very presence of divine wisdom, navigating human circumstances. The decisions you make from this place carry a completely different quality. They're not born from fear or desperation, but from a deep inner knowing that transcends human logic. If this shift in how you approach each day resonates with you, write in the comments, "I recognize my true nature." What makes this shift from asking to embodying so powerful is understanding what's actually happening behind the scenes. You're not adding some new spiritual quality to yourself. You're not developing abilities you didn't have before. You're not earning divine favor through better practices or more sincere prayers. The entire transformation is about removing the veils of misunderstanding that have been obscuring your spiritual vision all along. Think about it like this. The sun is always shining, even on the cloudiest day. The clouds don't diminish the sun's power or presence. They just temporarily block your view of it. Every belief that you're separate from divine source, every thought that you need to ask for what you already are, every prayer that reinforces your sense of spiritual inadequacy, these are the clouds. When those veils lift, even just for a moment, the impact can be absolutely staggering. I've witnessed people who suffered with chronic conditions for decades experience complete healing, not because they finally prayed hard enough or found the right spiritual technique, but because they caught a glimpse of this truth. They stopped asking God to fix their broken bodies and started embodying the recognition that their true spiritual nature had never been diseased. The shift wasn't gradual. It was immediate because nothing actually needed to be created or earned. The wholeness was there all along, just waiting to be recognized. The same pattern shows up in relationships. I've seen decade-long conflicts between family members dissolve overnight when just one person in the situation stopped asking for the other person to change and started embodying the Christ presence in both themselves and the other. That transformation doesn't happen through more communication strategies or conflict resolution techniques. It happens through recognition. When you embody divine love, you're no longer waiting for circumstances to improve so you can feel peaceful. Peace becomes your natural state, regardless of what's happening around you. This brings us to something absolutely crucial that most spiritual teachings completely miss. You are not a limited human being who occasionally has spiritual moments when you pray really well or meditate deeply enough. That entire framework is backwards. You're a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. Let that sink in for a moment, because when this truth actually penetrates your awareness, it changes everything about how you navigate your daily existence. Every challenge you face, the difficult colleague who triggers your frustration, the unexpected financial setback that creates anxiety, the chronic condition that limits your activities, the relationship that keeps causing pain, all of these transform from problems you need to solve into invitations to embody your divine nature. The journey shifts from "how do I get rid of this problem?" to "how is this situation inviting me to recognize who I truly am?" The difficult colleague isn't someone you need God to change or remove from your life. They're an opportunity for divine patience and wisdom to express through you. The financial pressure isn't evidence that you're not blessed enough or haven't prayed correctly. It's an invitation for infinite abundance to reveal itself in unexpected ways. The physical symptom isn't punishment or evidence of spiritual failure. It's space for wholeness to demonstrate that it was never actually threatened by temporary human conditions. If you're beginning to see your challenges as invitations rather than obstacles, write in the comments, "I am the answer." Now, you might be wondering if this actually works in real life, with real problems that have real consequences. It's one thing to talk about spiritual principles in theory, but does this shift from asking to embodying actually create tangible transformation in people's daily existence? The answer is so profound that it almost defies belief, yet the evidence is overwhelming. Joel Goldsmith dedicated decades of his life to this work, and what he witnessed would challenge everything most people believe about healing and transformation. He saw thousands of people experience dramatic shifts when they made this transition from petition to embodiment. These weren't minor improvements or temporary relief from symptoms. These were complete transformations that defied medical explanation and psychological understanding. People who had suffered with diseases for years, conditions that resisted every medical treatment and specialist intervention, experienced complete healing, not through more fervent prayer or better spiritual techniques, but through the simple recognition and embodiment of their true spiritual nature. Relationships that seemed irreparably broken, where family members hadn't spoken in years and carried wounds so deep they seemed permanent, experienced total reconciliation. Financial situations that looked absolutely hopeless, where bankruptcy seemed inevitable and no human solution appeared possible, transformed into unexpected abundance. The hidden truth behind all these healings is that they didn't occur through human effort or traditional prayer methods. They happened through recognition. When someone's consciousness shifted from asking for healing to embodying wholeness, the physical condition had no choice but to align with that recognition. This isn't wishful thinking or mind-over-matter psychology. It's something far more fundamental operating behind the scenes of human experience. Let me share a specific example that illustrates just how powerful this shift can be. There was a woman who carried bitter resentment toward her ex-husband for 15 years. This wasn't just a minor grudge or occasional irritation. It was a deep, poisonous wound that affected every area of her life. She had tried absolutely everything the human mind could conceive to heal this pain. Years of intensive therapy, forgiveness exercises from every spiritual tradition, meditation, retreats, even medication for the depression that had developed alongside her resentment. Nothing worked. Not because these approaches were wrong, but because she was still operating from the paradigm of asking. She was asking how to forgive, asking for the pain to go away, asking God to help her let go of the hurt. Every prayer, every therapy session, every meditation was reinforcing the basic assumption that she was broken and needed fixing, that forgiveness was something she had to achieve through effort. Then she encountered this truth about embodying Christ consciousness, and something fundamental shifted in her entire perspective. She stopped asking how to forgive and started embodying the divine presence in both herself and her ex-husband. She recognized that beneath the human story of betrayal and hurt, there was a spiritual reality that had never been damaged. The transformation wasn't gradual. Within just 3 weeks of this shift, her ex-husband called unexpectedly after years of painful silence. He apologized with genuine sincerity and asked for her forgiveness, but even more remarkably, she found compassion emerging naturally within her, not as something she forced herself to feel, but as the authentic expression of the divine nature she was embodying. If you've witnessed transformation happen when you stopped struggling and started embodying, write in the comments. Recognition is the key. This same principle operates just as powerfully in the material realm, where most people believe spiritual consciousness has no practical impact. Consider the journey of a businessman who was facing complete bankruptcy. He had exhausted every human solution imaginable: refinancing, aggressive marketing campaigns, staff reductions, expensive consultants who promised turnaround strategies. Nothing was working, and he was literally weeks away from losing everything he'd built over 2 decades. In absolute desperation, he came across these teachings about embodying Christ consciousness, and something clicked into place that he couldn't quite explain. The shift wasn't about learning new business strategies or discovering some hidden market opportunity. It was about fundamentally changing his consciousness from asking to embodying. He stopped approaching potential clients from a place of desperate need, frantically asking the universe to send him business before he lost everything. Instead, he began each day by recognizing the divine intelligence. That was his true nature. This transformation in mindset completely altered how he showed up in every interaction. He wasn't trying to manipulate outcomes through force of will anymore. He was trusting the infinite wisdom that knew how to prosper him better than his anxious human mind could ever conceive. The impact was almost immediate and utterly remarkable. Within just 2 months, 3 major contracts appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Companies that had never responded to his proposals suddenly reached out, wanting to work with him. Opportunities emerged from directions he hadn't even been pursuing. What changed wasn't his business strategy or market conditions, it was his consciousness. He moved from asking for solutions to embodying the answer. Behind the scenes of that external transformation was an internal revolution that shifted him from scarcity to abundance, from desperation to trust, from human effort to divine flow. Now, if you're wondering how to actually practice this shift from asking to embodying in your own daily life, there's a simple yet profoundly transformative approach that changes everything. Most people spend their spiritual time constantly talking to God, asking for guidance, requesting direction, pleading for clarity about decisions they need to make. But what if the most powerful spiritual practice is actually the opposite of talking? Instead of filling your prayer time with requests and petitions, try spending just 5 minutes in complete silence each morning, not asking for anything, not trying to solve your problems, not mentally rehearsing your worries or planning your day, simply listening with receptive awareness. At first, this might feel uncomfortable or even pointless. Your mind will likely flood with the usual mental noise, thoughts about what you need to do, worries about what might go wrong, random mental chatter jumping from one topic to another. But if you persist in this practice of listening rather than asking, something begins to shift. Gradually, you'll sense a deeper presence emerging from beneath the mental static. It's subtle at first, easy to miss if you're not paying attention, but it's there. A quiet knowing, a gentle wisdom, a peaceful intelligence that speaks without words. This is Christ consciousness communicating with your receptive awareness. The revelations that emerge from this listening practice carry a completely different quality than the anxious thoughts your human mind generates. If this practice of listening instead of asking resonates with you, write in the comments, "I choose to listen." This shift from asking to embodying becomes even more powerful when you extend it beyond your own personal experience into how you hold others in consciousness. When someone comes to you asking for prayers, what's your automatic response? Most people immediately start asking God to fix that person's problem. Please heal them. Please help them. Please intervene in their situation. But there's a profoundly different approach that creates far more transformative impact. Instead of asking for divine intervention, you can silently embody the recognition of Christ's perfection that's already present within that person. You're not requesting healing for them. You're not trying to convince God to notice their suffering and do something about it. You're simply holding the awareness of their true spiritual nature, the wholeness that exists beneath whatever human condition appears to be troubling them. This isn't denial of their struggle or dismissal of their pain. It's recognition of a deeper truth that human eyes can't see. The hidden truth behind this approach is that countless healings have occurred simply because one person stopped asking and started embodying this recognition. They didn't need the suffering person to understand these principles or even know that someone was holding them in spiritual awareness. The recognition itself creates space for transformation. When you embody the Christ presence for another person, you're not doing something to them or trying to manipulate their experience. You're simply getting your human opinions, fears, and judgments out of the way so that divine love can express itself freely. This might sound mystical or theoretical, but the practical results speak for themselves. People have experienced dramatic shifts in their conditions when someone in their life made this transition from petition to embodiment. The journey from asking to embodying isn't something you perfect overnight, but something remarkable begins to happen as you persist in this practice. The effort required actually diminishes over time. What initially took conscious intention and deliberate choice starts flowing automatically through your awareness. Spiritual recognition that once required reminding yourself constantly becomes your natural default response to situations. Love that you used to have to work hard to generate in difficult relationships begins emerging naturally, almost effortlessly. Peace that felt like an achievement you had to strive for becomes your baseline state of being. Behind the scenes of this transformation, you're becoming what Goldsmith described as a transparency for Christ. Your personality doesn't disappear or become less authentically you. In fact, you become more genuinely yourself than ever before. But your unique human expression serves as a clear window through which divine love, wisdom, and power can flow into the world. You stop asking to become more spiritual because you're embodying the Christ consciousness that has always been your true nature. The decisions you make, the words you speak, the presence you bring to every interaction, all of it carries a quality that transcends ordinary human interaction. People sense something different about you, though they might not be able to articulate exactly what it is. There's a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a clarity that doesn't come from human cleverness, a compassion that flows without effort. If you're experiencing this transformation from effort to natural flow, write in the comments, "I am becoming transparent." If you've stayed with me through this entire journey from asking to embodying, I want you to know that's significant. Most people would have clicked away the moment these ideas challenged their familiar understanding of spirituality. But you didn't. You stayed, because something within you recognizes this truth, even if your human mind is still processing what it all means. I create these videos because I believe these transformative principles are too valuable to remain hidden in obscure spiritual texts or kept within small circles of mystics. They're meant to be lived, experienced, and shared with people who are genuinely ready to move beyond conventional religious limitations into authentic spiritual awakening. If this content resonates with your journey, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. Every week, we explore these timeless truths about consciousness, identity, and divine expression in ways that are practical and accessible for modern seekers like you. This isn't just spiritual entertainment, it's a pathway to genuine transformation. And if this message landed exactly when you needed to hear it, write in the comments, "This was meant for me." I read every single comment, and there's something powerful about declaring your recognition publicly. It solidifies the shift that's already happening within you. If you found value in our time together, a simple like on this video helps these teachings reach others who are searching for this exact understanding. Your engagement creates ripples that extend far beyond what either of us can imagine. There's a video right here that explores how to maintain this embodied consciousness when life throws its greatest challenges at you. Click and continue with me over there, because the journey we've started together is just beginning. I'll see you in the next one.